What's up, everybody? I'm Avatage, and welcome to another episode of the HLTB podcast. I am joined, as always, by my fellow co-host Paula, aka Pokepaw.
Hello there.
And today we are going to be talking about all the games we've been beating and playing and not retiring, which is, always the goal.
It's been 2 weeks without nonsense. We're doing well.
To round ourselves off, we're going to have a little chat about gaming guilty pleasures, which I actually think will be quite interesting because we have some different ideas. Well, I have some different ideas about guilty pleasures, and we all have different kinds of guilty pleasures, and, well, it might get a bit spicy.
Beautiful.
But I also just wanted to add at the top of the episode, for those who didn't make it to the end of the last episode, I just wanted to reiterate what we announced then, which is that the podcast of Season 3 will be coming to an end after episode 52, as both myself and Paula have real-life commitments which are making it harder and harder to get episodes done every week. And we, have decided to close it off for now. Very much for now. It might change again in the future, but we're also asking for the community for, if anyone is interested in picking up the mantle and going into a season 4, either as a different group or with different kind of format or anything like that, that's cool. Obviously, it's very much an open kind of thing where it's just for the community, so there's no real requirements. But if you do want to talk to us about it, even just find out more about how we do it and how you could do it yourself, and if you are interested, hit us up, send us a message here, Discord. Our email address, I think, is hltbpodcast@gmail.com. Is that correct, Paula?
I think it is. Yeah, it is.
Nice. So yeah, send us an email there if you like as well. Any inquiries, even if you'd like to find out more, we'd be more than happy to share everything with you and, see if you are interested, because obviously we would like to see it continue in some fashion, but unfortunately we are not equipped at the moment to continue it further than a few more episodes. So, just thought I'd put that at the top, just in case anyone missed it last time. So we'll probably mention it again every episode.
Like off topic or not so off topic, I guess, but we could even do either an extra or a special episode about the behind the podcast kind of deal.
Yeah, we could do that. That'd be cool.
So we can give people more in-depth tips other than you will hate time zones and also daylight savings and holy
Yeah.
if you're recording, we recommend to be with a crew not more than 7-8 hours from your time zone, because we're awake at crazy times, I think.
Or just, it depends on, I think, the mix, like anything. Like Paul, you and I have a pretty good time zone split, because usually my evening is your morning and your morning is my evening. So
yeah, definitely.
That's kind of good. But as soon as we throw in the old podcast host, if we throw in Rick in England, he fucks everything up for me, because then it makes one of us is in the middle of the night or really early morning or something, because it's just spread out so much across the globe that it's hard to avoid a bad time for somebody. So
yeah, it's kind of funny how Rick gets dissed at least once every few episodes, even if he's not here anymore. We're sorry, Rick.
Well, and Rick and I have played games together before as well, and it's we've been able to find good times if it's mostly kind of
I guess.
England and Europe, and then Australia. Not once you throw America in and that kind of whole time zone, like North or South America, that's when it kind of throws it out of the whack, when you've got 3 different plus time zones going. But between 2, you can usually find a good time. So
yeah, it's kind of like I wonder how we kept it going for so long with Alex and Rick, because I think at some point we were recording at 2 p.m. at Alex's time. It was 3 p.m. for me and 8 for Rick. I don't know. And there was also the funky thing that since we were in different hemispheres, my time zones went backwards when theirs went forwards. And of course, since we're in different time zones, everyone, it couldn't like be pretty. And each week we had like a different split
Hmm.
when daylight savings came. So that was fun.
Yeah.
In that regard, working with you has been far easier because we're in the same hemisphere. So we
Yeah.
get either both push back or push forward, and our daylight savings were the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
and our daylight savings were the same week, so it was magic. We didn't have to change a thing.
Yeah. But yeah, that is definitely something to consider. However, who knows? You might find that there's some balance to be had somewhere. And I would also encourage, if you are perhaps someone listening who's a little bit interested, but you're not sure of anyone you'd want to do it with, that's okay as well, because it's a good chance to perhaps meet someone else in the community and get to know them better. Like, I didn't know Paula heaps well before doing this. We met and talked and stuff in the community, but we'd never really, one-on-one kind of chatted or anything like we have since then. And it's been great.
Yeah, it's been great.
Basically, yeah.
Besides, like, not only you met like the other hosts, but and you get to know them better, but also you get to meet like all sorts of people in and out of the community if you play your cards right too. Like,
Yeah.
holy crap! Like, the end of the year special was crazy.
Oh,
We
man.
got
Yeah.
everyone, and it was amazing.
That was heaps of fun. And that's kind
Yeah,
of, that's why we want to see it keep going, because it's a lot of fun for the community, I think. And it's a lot of fun to do as well. Like, even though we are getting busy in our real lives and don't have time for it, it's still a lot of fun. And I wish I did have time for it because, yeah, it is something to look forward to and a really good hobby to kind of do. But anyway, that's enough about that, I guess. We'll talk about it again, I'm sure, in the next episode, the next one, until we finished.
yeah, pretty much.
But Paula, why don't you kick us off and tell us about the games you've beaten recently?
Well, so I've been on a Glass Masquerade kick. Thank you, Apache. Uh,
Mm,
and I ended up beating both Glass Masquerade 2 Illusions and Glass Masquerade 3 Honeylines, both with all their respected DLCs, which is
nice.
nice. Though I have to say, I still prefer the first one more. And the second one on my tier list would be Glass Masquerade 2, and the third one was it wasn't bad, but there was a lot of things that they changed that, in my opinion, departed a little bit from the original formula. So in Masquerade 2, you have not different kind of yeah, some different kinds of puzzles. I guess like the shape variety is not there as it was in Glass Masquerade 1. So for example, in Glass Masquerade 1, oh my god, it's gonna be tongue twister of okay, in the first game. Uh,
Mm,
in the OG game, you also have like different kind of like face clocks, which, by the way, they don't do the clock thing anymore. Now that I think about it,
mm,
and well, it was like a glass panel painting thingy, uh, and also sometimes it was like divided in subsections, and it was really fun because you not only have to take into account like the shapes and borders of the a bigger section, but you have to keep in mind that the subsection has pieces as well. So it increases the difficulty of it in that regard. In the case of Glass Masquerade 2 Illusions, the DLC was kind of lacking in the sense of, was it? I don't remember which one. There's so many puzzles there, but I don't remember like the name of the DLC. But if you play this game, is the one like in the group of puzzles in the like upper left corner of the map.
right.
And they all have the same base, like they all have the same shape. And even though you have different shape pieces and different artwork, it still feels a little bit repetitive because you keep solving like the same shape over and over again. It's not unlike solving like different jigsaw puzzles, like you get the overall structure of it. But at the same time, since there are so few pieces, it is not as stimulating to your mind, and you're not as invested as if you're like a jigsaw puzzle fan and you like to solve those. Because here you have almost like what 50 pieces. Well, in jigsaw puzzles you have 500, 750, 1,000, 2,000, whatever you want.
Mm.
So yeah. Um, but besides that, I still like most of the artwork. I feel like some of the colors were a little more muted, and I felt kind of like disappointed that we didn't have like the themes we have like in the first game, where you have like a thing from each different country. Like we still have some culture oriented stuff because a lot of that was like mythical stuff, or like horror stories. I think there was like a section with horror stories because there were clowns and weird
Mm.
shit. But it was like a lot less defined in a way, but it was still a very good play. Glass Masquerade 3, it kind of like departs from the glass aesthetic, which is in the title. So, I
That's
felt kind
interesting.
of, yeah,
Mm.
it felt kind of weird for me, like in that regard. You have different pieces for puzzles and different, I guess, dispositions of how the pieces appear. So in the first two games, you have like two wheels, I'm gonna call them, of pieces like that you can circle like around the puzzle itself, like the base of the thing you're trying to build,
Mm.
and you have all the pieces from the get go. But in Glass Masquerade 3, you kind of like go on unlocking pieces as you go.
Yeah, like they give you the first ones around the edge, for example, and then once you do that, you get the next ones in, and yeah.
Yeah, and they have like I feel like they have like four kinds of dispositions of how they give the pieces to you. And also the pieces have like I think they call like four shapes. And also you have the option of doing that on hard mode, so you have to rotate the pieces. You would think that that would increase the difficulty, but since they're giving you the pieces like in a certain order, in that
Mm.
regard, it lowers the difficulty quite a bit. So,
Mm.
for example, and you can like guess really quickly what kind of disposition it has, because there's like one that feels from the bottom up, one that feels from the edges to the inside, one that is, I guess, a little bit more random, but not so quite, and another one that I honestly forgot. It might as well be from the top to the bottom, but anyway. And then you have the different kinds of pieces, like the ones that are like similar in shape to the ones in the previous two games. But also you have like the honeycomb,
Mhm.
that is like a individual hexagon that is a piece of the thing. Oh, the fourth disposition of the puzzles was like having like some of the edges there already. Now I remember. And also you have like a hint system, so if that I didn't use, but for example, it will tell you like which spaces you need to fill for that particular round of pieces. I turned that off very quickly because I didn't want the game to completely tell me how to solve the thing I was supposed to
Mm.
solve for the fun. So yeah, uh, and you have like these collections of honeycombs that come in different shapes that have like different hexagon pieces, I guess. And there was another one, but I don't remember. Anyway, I did like the pictures better, even though they weren't like in the style of the glass stained crystals. Color stained glasses? Stained glasses. Okay, okay, okay. I got this. I got this. So I only wish that they could maintain the style because it was something that really make them unique. And also they, again, there's like the one shape for every puzzle, so you don't get variety there, which is again a shame. The pictures are very pretty though, so at the very least there's that. And there's two main DLCs that I think one was like Suns and Wings or something like that, or Music and
Mm.
Wings, something and Wings, and the other one was more of People and Foxtails or something like that. So
Right.
I don't know why am I not looking at the thing? Oh, sorry. It's folks and spirits and wings and tunes there.
Hmm.
I particularly like the wings and tunes pictures better, so they all follow the same puzzle system. So yeah, I still have a lot of fun. To be fair, the way they mixed up the shape of the pieces was still welcome in Glass Masquerade 3. I just wish they either give you all the pieces like beforehand or they did something else to increase the difficulty of the puzzles. But still, it was serviceable and it was still very fun. Other than that, I think I've exhausted everything I have to say about it. Go play Glass Masquerade 1. That's the one thing I can tell you.
Well, it's interesting to hear you talk about Glass Masquerade 3 because I remember I played that recently and kind of started recommending you should play these games.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it actually being much different, like aesthetically. Like I thought it was still in the kind of glass pieces kind of aesthetic, for want of a better word.
It was kinda, but it felt more like instead of like the having like different sections of the grass be painted differently, it felt more like they were painting like I don't know with acrylic or oil paintings over a piece of glass. So it still
Right.
have like that brush stroke kind of thing,
Yeah.
but the way the pieces are or like the way the images are composed and the way like the line work works is way different. So it felt
Mm.
off in a way.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out because I have also been replaying the games as well after playing number three. As I think I told you before, I tend to replay these games quite a bit anyway.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I have also since last week beaten Glass Masquerade 2 because I realized there was a DLC from that which I hadn't played yet because it had come out since last time I'd played it.
Ooh,
So I picked it up
which one
and
would
replayed the
it
whole
be?
game. I think it was like this Scary Monsters one or something.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, it was. It didn't add heaps, like it was only a few puzzles from memory, but that was okay. I was happy with that. Um,
Mm,
because I replayed the whole game, and it was good to kind of remind myself how each game has changed. Because as I'll talk about later, I've been playing the first one again as well. But I did finish Glass Masquerade 2 along with all the DLCs, and I agree. I like the art in it very much but it is a lot more perhaps abstract and kind of, but I think it almost fits the stained glass window kind of aesthetic a lot better than the first game because it looks like shards of glass all put together kind of thing. Like it's not a cohesive, clean picture all the time.
mhm.
In number two, like
Yep.
it looks quite abstract and it looks quite shattered apart and all that, and it looks great. Like the pictures all look good, but there are some images that you do have to kind of look at a little bit harder to kind of figure out what's going on because it's a everything's kind of broken into pieces a lot more and it's not as clear in some instances.
Yeah, especially like when there's like a monster or something that isn't like clearly a person or animal. But even then,
Yeah.
like I don't know how they do it, but sometimes I'm like only 5 pieces away from completing the puzzle, and then I realize, oh, this is actually a person dancing, and I find that to be very cool.
Yeah, yeah. And I agree. I think I really like the aesthetic of the game, including the soundtrack and the sound design. Because as you like pick up and place down pieces, you get nice little glass little chinks and stuff, as you would
That
if you
is
were
so satisfying. Yeah.
if you were picking up real pieces of glass and how they would sound if you were like kind of pushing them against each other. And it's the sound design throughout the whole game, I think, and through the whole series is actually very good. But yeah, I do agree that the third one is definitely the weakest, I think, even though I still enjoyed it. I don't know if I think the first one's the best. I'm still kind of playing through it again, but I do like the first two a lot better than the third one, mostly for the
Hmm.
same reasons that you brought up just now as well. So, it seems to be, yeah. And I don't know if you thought this too, but Glass Masquerade 3 to me when I played it felt a bit light on content.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, the main reason I think it felt light on content is because, like, you see the number of puzzles like on the top of the screen at all time. I think this one had less puzzles.
Mm.
So each one had, bless you. This one had more modes or game modes, I guess. So
Yeah, I
in
think
theory, you could play each puzzle more, but yeah, in terms of content, it felt
yeah.
weaker.
And that's what I mean. Like, I only wanted to play each puzzle once anyway, but they've set it up so you can play each puzzle multiple times with different variables and stuff, different rules and things to kind of change it up, which is cool. Just not for me really as much, I guess. I'd rather more pictures.
Yeah, definitely. Different shapes too, because everything was a
Yeah,
circle in this one.
yeah. Well, and yeah, that's interesting with uh, thinking about that playing the first game again, which does change it up a lot more. I can't
Yeah,
say I miss the clock hands. Like sometimes they just get in the way.
I mean, yeah, but at the release for me, they ended like sense of tension. Of wait,
Uh,
I'm taking too long, but I don't know. I guess different strokes for different folks.
yeah. Oh, it's pure taste or whatever.
Yeah,
But it's a good series though, and I'm glad you have enjoyed it. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it to anyone who likes puzzles and just straight up kind of jigsaw puzzles, but interesting different ways of doing it because it's a computer game.
yeah, definitely. It's kind of funny because like since I play everything back to back to back, I kind of got burned out near the end, but
Yeah.
not like too like very at the end of the whole experience. It's kind of funny.
That's good, I suppose, because I would expect if you're going to play three games in a series straight after each other, if you say you got a bit burned out, then I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. It's not the game's fault. Um, but if it didn't happen until near the end, then I'd say, well, that's a good game because it shows it's you can still keep at it for a while.
Definitely. I
But
think
yeah,
it has to do like with how different the third one is, like at the release on how because I played with the kinds of puzzles and blah 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 and dispositions of the pieces like at random, so every puzzle was something new. Though in my
mm.
defense, I didn't know. So when I discovered I could change it, it was like, oh, it wasn't supposed to be like this. Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, the only other thing I've beaten this week has been the Case of the Golden Idol, which, if anyone remembers me talking about it last week, is a kind of point and click mystery detective type game where you're presented with a series of chapters in a story, and each chapter takes you through a series of scenes of things happening. And in those scenes, you investigate pretty much a whole bunch of stuff that you are able to. There's like hotspots you can click on each scene. So you can listen to what people are saying to each other. You can see what's in their pockets and kind of possessions they have on them or letters that they have, and read the contents and take notes of the people who are mentioned and the events and the items and all this kind of stuff. So you end up with basically building almost like a dossier or something of names and actions and items and all this kind of stuff. And then at the end of each chapter, you basically use all that information to solve the mystery. So one of the steps is to identify everyone. So everyone who's in the scenes, you then write down who is who based on their portrait, like what their first and last name is. And the game tells you, oh, yep, you've got them all correct. Good on you. Then there's different events that happen or different social structures or things that you also have to identify. And then the final thing you do for each chapter is basically fill out a paragraph with the names and items and events of what has happened. And it's usually along the lines of so-and-so murdered so-and-so because of something, and they stole the something to give then to so-and-so who killed so-and-so with something. And, you fill in all those names and somethings and everything, which you learn kind of along the way. And it still reminded me even more of Return of the Obra Dinn because it's a similar kind of gameplay loop, even though it's a very different format of game and very different kind of system. But you do that whole thing of exploring everything and soaking up as much information as you can and writing down as many details as you can and actually taking notes. Like I had my notepad on my computer open at the same time to take notes so I wouldn't forget things. because as you're exploring, you do make connections just organically because you learn things, or someone writes a letter to someone else and mentions something, and you could go back through it later, but while you're actually exploring, it's worth writing it down.
That kind of sounds like my kind of game, not gonna lie.
Yeah, well, and I think if anyone is a fan of something like Return of the Obra Dinn, this is very different, but it has that same satisfying kind of loop where you explore, you organically kind of make connections and inferences and that sort of thing, and then you fill out essentially the answers based on everything you've discovered. And when you get it right, you get it right, and you move on, just like in Obra Dinn. And this one was so good when I finished it because I won't get into the story too much because it's a bit convoluted, but essentially, much like the title suggests, it's the case of the golden idol, and it's centered around this golden idol object, which is kind of a MacGuffin for the whole story because everything happens around it. But the idol has certain powers and things that different people get interested in, and it starts off being like a 17th or 18th century kind of Renaissance-y or frontiers land adventure where these explorers have gone out and they've found the golden idol and they brought it back home and they've done all this stuff, but then it ends up getting into like different cults who have worshipped the idol and use it to prove that they are deities and have magic powers and all this kind of shit. And that's where it kind of like gets a bit convoluted, and you have to figure out all the key points to the story in order to answer all the questions and solve the mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them I forgot pretty quickly.
Oh.
because they were kind of abstract concepts that didn't mean much to me, but where I know there's a few different sects in the cult, and you have to in one section you have to figure out the hierarchy of cult members based on the title that they have. So kind of like in an army, how you'd have like a colonel and a lieutenant and a captain, and they'd all be different places in the hierarchy. This has its own thing, but it's the same sort of thing where there's different titles for cult members. So depending on what title they have depends on where they sit in the hierarchy. And, it's just, there's a lot of names to remember. There's a lot of items to find and remember as well. So I did find that I kind of forgot things very quickly as I moved on because I was just soaking in the next set of information. Not that that's a bad thing, because the story just kind of was almost like a loose framework within which to solve mysteries, but it wasn't the central thing like, oh man, I'm loving this story, I really got to see how it ends. It's more just a vehicle to move on to the next thing and go, oh, what's the next mystery and how do I solve it and how does it end? Cool, I've done that, now what's the next mystery, and so on and so forth. So, it wasn't the most compelling story, but it was functional enough and interesting enough and diverse enough to keep the mysteries flowing, to the point that I finished the main game, which I got on Game Pass, and then I went and bought the 2 DLCs for the game, which are kind of like their own little contained mysteries. They're a bit shorter than the main game, where the main one I think has 3 or 4 chapters. The DLCs have just 1 chapter each. And I think there's about 3 scenes per chapter in the DLCs. And they each tell their own little story based on, again, around the golden idol and that sort of thing. The first one is called The Spider of Lanka, and the second one is called The Lemurian Vampire. So The Spider of Lanka is, again, another mystery about basically this dude who ends up being called the Spider because he takes on spider-like qualities thanks to the idol, and something happens, I can't remember what, but it's relevant. And it's interesting because it's like this, it's set somewhere else in the world and in a different time, so there's different kinds of characters and different things happening, but then some characters from the main game show up as well because they're like chasing after the golden idol too. And similar with the Lemurian Vampire, because it's set on an island, or most of it is set on an island where explorers have crash landed with their ships. They're basically shipwrecked, and again chasing the idol, and the whole thing is about them trying to reconcile with the locals to get past all the voodoo and native tribal kind of worship of the idol to gain either power or whatever for themselves as well. So it's, it's a story about all that kind of thing, and it's kind of fun, but it's not like the central cause of the game or the central focus of the game. The main focus of the game is all about that good mystery solving, and I really liked it because there's not many games these days that will not necessarily be challenging, but will be willing to challenge the player with puzzles that are the kind of puzzle where you have to kind of take your own notes and make your own connections and actually think for yourself and not just use a hint system and, all that kind of thing. And back in, when I was younger, that was more common because having inbuilt hint system.
Back in my day.
Well, yeah, but back in the day, it reminds me of games like Myst, where Myst doesn't tell you shit. And it was before the internet. You couldn't go online and just get a guide or something. You had to just figure out the puzzles and solve them. And that's that. And this kind of reminded me of that in a way, because I find a lot of games these days, especially like point and clicks or anything where there's kind of puzzles tied to progression in that sense, they'll always, in a nice way, they'll give you an out. Like they'll always give you a hint system or something, or the characters will start telling you what the solution is if you take too long, or stuff like that. And that's okay. Like I don't mind that so much. It's just, it is nice sometimes when you play a game that just doesn't tell you anything and just lets you figure it out. And you have to kind of learn things yourself and learn about the game in order to solve its problems. Yeah, in that sense, like I say, it makes me think of Return of Obra Dinn quite a bit because, again, that game tells you nothing. You just kind of go in and do. And by the time you get to the end of it, you feel like you know everything because you've actually had to learn things along the way. So
yeah, it's not like the game tell you some last minute plot twist and it totally makes sense. Trust us.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, Case of the Golden Idol, very good. I definitely think it's worth. I've heard lots of critical acclaim for it and popular acclaim, and I think it's worth all the praise that it gets. So yeah, I'm glad to have played it. I'm glad it came on Game Pass because I wouldn't have picked it up as soon probably, and I went and bought the DLC. So that, I obviously liked it enough to do that.
Yeah, and in that regard, like when there's a game in Game Pass that has DLC, it's kind of like a very good advertisement in a way because it's like the
Yeah.
first one is free, or like you pay only Game Pass, but it is free. You don't have to pay it separate, and then it's like, oh,
Well, it's
you
like,
want more?
yeah, it's like the best kind of demo because you
Yeah,
get most of the game as the demo, and then it says you want to pay a little bit and you can get some more, and I'm like, sure, I do, and off we go.
yeah. That was me with an arcade full of cats. Like half of the game was free, the other half was paid, and it was like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna pay.
Yeah, and I guess in that sense, because we were talking about this recently in one of our topics as well, like subscriptions and different models of ways to buy games. This is a great example of I felt really positive about buying the DLC because it wasn't cheap. I think it was like $7.50 or something for each DLC.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent $15, which for a little indie game, some people might think is quite a lot, especially for DLC. But because it had been on Game Pass and I hadn't paid it initially, I was more than happy to fork over $15 to get the DLC because in my mind I was just paying the dev directly for all of it, and I'm sure they got paid by Xbox to be on Game Pass anyway because that's how it works.
Yeah.
But I figure, hey, you made a great game. I really enjoyed myself. Thanks for putting it on Game Pass as well. I'm going to buy the DLC, throw you a few bones, and have some more fun and support you for whatever you do next, kind of thing. So, warm fuzzies all round in that sense. But yeah, that's all I've beaten this week. I'm looking forward to hearing about what you've been playing, Paula, because, well, when you get into your school stories, weird shit always happens. So
Yeah, definitely. So okay, let me see my notes. What was?
get that notebook out. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think last time I was rearranging like the semester, like the schedule for the semester, and holy crap, that took me like an hour. To be fair, I was like trying to make it so like classes with higher aspirations got the best teachers, and then the ones who already passed and had like their aspiration pretty much ready, and also they did some volunteer work. Yeah, let's call it like that. Um, so yeah, I've been training the teachers like on their uh, training set, like the one that allows them like to train their other stats pretty much. Mainly because like some of them were shit. Like I forgot I had them from the beginning of the game, and some were like uh, relocated as researchers, but they still like went and and did like classes and stuff like that in their free time. But still, so I've been trying like to increase stats for the teachers that are like already high enough, mainly because I already have a little problem because like even the teacher that have like 100 and something in sports wasn't
Mm.
enough for one of the kids on the class, so I had to train her up a little bit because otherwise that kid would fail. Well, he actually failed, but anyway. Um, so the other thing that I try to do is improve all the classrooms up to 5 stars, like the ones that are like the home classroom. I'm gonna say, because kids like can move around and go like to the library and to the different like laboratories whenever they have like a specific class that requires that. So I sent around, first of all, uh, improving all the main classrooms up to 5 stars because the quality of the classroom will also uh, either help or hinder. No, I think it can't hinder, but the better the classroom, the more the kids learn, or the
Hmm.
faster the kids learn. So you need to have like you don't need as high quality teachers in that regard. So it was like a quick patch for the kids with higher requirements to learn a little bit faster while my teachers caught up to them. I still need to improve like the special classrooms, such as the debate room, the physics lab. I think the computer room is as good as it can be at this point. But yeah, I have to improve like all the other classrooms to make them like quicker when they have classes in those. I also put some more vending machines around because, well, especially like in summer, like kids get very thirsty, so I have to like put like all the vending machines in all the corners. So it's good. It wasn't in in that way. No, wipe that smile out of your face. I know what you thought. Anyway,
I didn't say anything.
uh-huh. I'm watching you. So yeah, uh, that ended up another semester where I took first place with 4,106 points. I think that the points had to do with the aspiration level of the student, plus if they succeeded and how much they succeeded. Like if they just passed or like they went uh, like like the top of their class, pretty much. Um, and 9 whole classes graduated a year because, if we remember correctly, I'm on the setting where each every 2 weeks it marks like the end of a year, so each week is technically a semester. So yeah,
Right.
uh, so obviously I had to prepare for the first semester on the new school year. I had to add 2 more classrooms because since I've been taking kids from two new districts, I also had to make like dorm rooms and stuff like that for kids to stay because some live like very very far and that was required for them to attend the school. And I'm also like trying to improve that infrastructure because the first dorm room that I made was like, oh shit, I need to welcome students that need to sleep here, so I'm gonna do a couple of rooms that somehow fit 4 students each, and that's the end of it. So I'm expanding that a little bit more so it doesn't feel like they're like um I don't know. They have more space. That's the thing I need.
Hmm.
Uh Also I ended up one of the things that you have to take into account is that earthquakes and fires will happen. So at this
Yeah.
point in time, I managed to avoid any and all fires like that are inside of the building. They mostly happen like in the food tent that is outside because I don't know. I don't know what the chef does there, but every once in a while there's a fire. So I have like a little fire station and extinguisher over there. And all the kitchens have like a sprinklers, a fire extinguisher, and a fire alarm. And I also have like security rooms, but anyway. So one thing that you have to keep in mind is that students need to know how to act during those events. So from time to time, I have some students go through fire drill, but every single semester I do at least one earthquake drill. Because the first time I had an earthquake and I didn't have one of those, like the earthquake drills. Holy crap, you had to manually search for the students that are in danger and like click on them so they can evacuate like in a good way. So now like the last earthquake, I don't remember when that was. Um like all the students like just went ahead and went orderly, and the only couple of people that didn't know what to do were like very new students. So yeah, I call that a success.
Mm.
So yeah, I finished organizing the schedules for all 31 classes at that point in time. Holy crap, that's a lot. And you always start with a little speech at the start of the semester. And there's no reason not to do it because like it gives bonuses to either your teachers or your students, depending on who you want to well talk to directly during the speech. So yeah, so the first semester of this new year, ended up mostly without a hitch. I say mostly because one of the students fell. I don't know what happened. It was he was supposed to pass, but like just like last minute thing, there was one class left, and he said like, you know what, I might fail, and he failed. I God damn it, kid! Why didn't you say so earlier? Anyway, I'm gonna have to do like special planning for that kid because uh he isn't like graduated next year, but he is gonna have to like go up in a class, and I don't want him to fail like finals. That would be horrible.
Now he's special needs.
Yeah, and I also like use like a lot of the items because you get like special items on your, I guess, directory inventory, and you can essentially give the students free points. I'm an idiot. Like I could have used the wonder that I have like for 500 points. Fuck it, I'm gonna use it next semester. Who needs this anyway? So yeah, out of 331 students, just one of them failed.
That's pretty
Uh,
good though.
Also, I still have a frog problem. I don't know. These kids, th- they have frog problems.
I was about to ask if how the frogs are going.
So last semester, like on the like final semester of the past year, it was going fine. I guess like there weren't like many incidents, but I don't know. Like I would want to say like the new little gremlins are the ones throwing the frogs, but then I discovered like a second year from a specific class throwing frogs, and then I realized there's like one or two specific classes, or like I guess like there are people for like two districts in particular that like collecting frogs and then throw them at people, and I'm like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna. So I have to pretty much go every morning, take all their frogs. They somehow managed to catch another frog in school and they still throw it at people. So yeah, literally, like the last incident I had in the year was a frog incident. God damn it! They never
Nice.
learn. So yeah, at the very least, pretty much every other type of contraband has gone down quite a bit. We haven't had like any kids with indecent magazines. We have had a couple of Game Boys, but other than and for some reason, there's a couple of kids who like bringing nunchakus to the school, like their weapons, and I'm like, dude, no. But
Stick
other
to
than that,
frogs.
yeah, it's mostly frogs that I have to take away from students. I don't know why. Okay, so the next game that I've been playing, and this is actually a replay because I've started playing it like during the Steam Next Fest, fell in love with it, bought it on early access as soon as possible, and now since it's been quite a while, I decided to pick it up again, and that's
Mhm.
Timberborn,
Nice.
which is pretty much a post-apocalyptic city builders with beavers.
Yeah.
And it is wonderful. They have a lot of maps, like in the old days, they have like only like one map that was for beginners, sorry. But now they have three, and they have like a good variety of maps. And I think they're opening up for a, workshop content. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
In Timberborn, you still have only two types of beavers you can play as. One are the folk tales, and I have to pronounce that very carefully because it's like a letter away from being another thing. And the other one is the iron teeth. So iron teeth, whatever. So the folk
Hmm.
tales are like more like proper normal beavers, as normal as they can be, since they can actually build very uh like um complex mechanisms. Let's keep it at that. But
Yep.
they still like live life in a very very way. And they're I love them so much because like in their artwork they're like the country bumpkins of beavers, while the iron tooth are the ones that pretty much are leaving their organic past behind, and they are capable of, like, they manage to do like to advance technology to the point that they, instead of, well, reproducing like normally, they have these breeding tanks or breeding pots, I think they're called,
Hmm.
and pretty much like a little beaver embryo can develop outside, like in a tank. Though it has advantages and disadvantages because you still have to. Okay, so normally, like in the folk tales, like you just have to have housing and things happen and you have more beavers.
Hmm.
With Iron Tooth, you have to like manually, like not manually set the thing, but you have to put food and water in the tank so the beaver inside can grow. And it has to be berries, if I remember correctly. So if you don't have berries, you don't have any beavers. Other than that, there are structures that are specific for each kind of beaver, but I'm not too sure which ones because I mostly play with the folktales.
Hmm.
Um, I've only seen gameplay of the Iron Tooth, but I haven't paid enough attention to know what are the differences are. So, what's the objective of the game? You have your little beaver population, and you want to survive. What are you surviving? Well, the typical city builder stuff, like you need to have your beavers happy and well fed, and they have to be able to drink water and all that jazz. But also, there's a little thing called droughts. So, from time to time, water will just vanish. And if you don't have saved enough water in your water tanks, you're screwed. Royally screwed. Not only that, but vegetation doesn't grow when there's drought. So, good luck trying to get food during that process. Unless you have irrigators, but you don't have those in early game. So that's one thing. And now the other thing that they added is like, what was the name again? Baptites, I think. Let me check real quick
Right.
in the page because I completely forgot the thing. But it's pretty much like the water becomes contaminated. I don't know if it's for a set amount of time. I haven't encountered that yet. That is actually one of the reasons why I want to play it again, because there's another type of natural disaster that will surely kill your beavers if you're not careful enough. Bad water. That was the thing. Bad water.
Right.
Yeah. So I think if your beavers step on it, they get poisoned, and you don't want that because poison is bad. No shit, Sherlock.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, like that's the gist of it. I don't know if there's like any other mechanic from it besides you won't be able to drink the water because it's fucking poison. And yeah, I've been slowly but surely building my beaver civilization. I have to say, the beginning of the game is quite more friendly, like a lot more friendly than it was when I first played it. Like my boyfriend even said,
Cool.
like, "Hey, you remember how we died so many times during the first route? So now I just followed the tutorial, and suddenly I just survived the drought." So in that regard, the tutorial seems to like prepare the player a little bit more for the things to come. And also, I think that some grow rates, either for trees or like the build rates, have been improved because I do remember having to wait forever to get a forester and be able to replant trees. If you run out of trees, you're fucked. Let me tell you that, because you don't have like the very thing you need to build shit. Um,
Yeah.
Also, there's been they've added like different sizes of storages because usually like you were only able to build like the middle storage, I guess, and the big one. But now there's a smaller one in case you really need storage but don't have a lot of resources, or
Hmm.
you want to keep things tidy, whatever. I think berries regrow a little bit faster. I may be crazy about that, but I'm not sure. But also there's new alignments uh, that can be detrimental to your viewer's health. One of them, for example, if you have like the group of beavers like working on getting timber, their teeth get either broken. I think it's called like a broken teeth or something like that. And you have to
Mm.
provide them a grinder so they grind their teeth up to full uh, sharpness, I guess. So they can sharpen their teeth and like go back and pretty much like uh, sorry, cut trees at like full speed, which is kind of
Mm.
nice. Like it gives like an extra layer of things you have to take account for, because
Hmm.
and it also gives you a reason to use down your resources, because at some point in time, once you finish building like certain buildings, you're probably pretty much set to go. But since this game the game is giving you more stuff to do with your resources, I think it's getting more engaging.
Cool.
I think that's it for now, because I haven't played
Nice.
very much. I've only played like half an hour each night, and I'm quick to fall asleep because I'm tired. But anyway,
But
I
it's
do bring up.
improved since last time you had a go.
Yeah, it's improved a lot, and it looks even more beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
holy
Cool.
crap! The latest experimental patch, which I haven't touched because I don't want to break my game. Um, I have beaver farmers with hats. It's so stupid about it. I love it so much.
Nice.
Um,
Well, they got to have a hat in if they're out in the sun all day.
yeah, definitely. And also, I think they're adding like wonders of some kind,
Okay.
and they're modifying like the physics for the water, because right now they have what they call 2.5D physics,
Hmm.
and there's places where the water just cuts off, but they want to do like a 3D physics, like proper 3D physics to water, so it doesn't happen that way. And there's also a thing that where they didn't want you to have like perpetual like power supply, and each time you put like a water mill, or like, yeah, a water mill on the water, it will slow down the flow of water. So they ended up removing that because people were like, "Hey, why my water mules aren't doing the meal thing? Like, what happened there?" So yeah,
Cool.
the final game that I've been playing is Cats Love Boxes,
They do.
and this one is one that I picked up with the Dev Cats bundle a while ago in the Steam sale. So this is a puzzle game, and you control two cats, Fofinho and the other cat I don't remember the name of, but she's a tiny, well, not tiny, but a smaller calico cat.
Mm.
And the thing is that they're bored inside the house and they start moving boxes to set places. And if they manage to move the box to the place they're supposed to bring it to, then you win that level. Simple as that. There's a couple of rules that you became aware of as the game advances. So, for example, you're told that Fofinho, the orange cat, of course it's an orange cat, is able to move heavier boxes, while the calico cat is only able to move tiny boxes because she's smaller. But because of that, later when there's this kind of like fake floor tiles, I'm gonna say, Fofinho
Yeah.
can step on them once, and once he gets out of that tile, the tile breaks, and then there's a hole
Right.
there. While the calico cat is able to move over those tiles because she's lighter and doesn't break them. So she's able to walk back and forth over those tiles. So far, I only have like those two, um, I guess, qualities or like restrictions. Yeah, those two restrictions, like the weight
Yeah.
and strength of the cat. But it has been quite an interesting puzzle game, and some of the puzzles get really tough. Also, there's cats there, and the intro animation is adorable.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's all I've been playing this week. So,
Hmm.
Josh, take it away.
Well, it's going to be very quick for me because it's a lot of stuff I've just continued on with. Other than like I mentioned earlier, I've started playing the first Glass Masquerade game again. And just to echo what you've said as well, since you've played it, like I do really enjoy how they have like cultural kind of imagery as you play, because in the first one, all the puzzles are kind of set in places around the world, and the image of each puzzle is something related to that location. So I don't have any examples off the top of my head, but so if you do like a puzzle that's set in Paris, then it's got some sort of French Paris related imagery. If it's in Italy, it's something Italian, so on and so forth, all the way around the whole world. And yeah, that's a lot of fun. But I'm still, working my way through. Reminded again that yes, I think it's still better than the third one because again, I like that they changed up the third one and they did add that kind of extra variety and stuff in different ways that you can play each puzzle. But for my money, I'd rather have the same mechanics perhaps in each puzzle, but more puzzles. So, that's all I got to say about that. I still enjoy the series though. It's a great series. This is like the third time I'm replaying this one, so there's really nothing to report. I guess it's still a fun little puzzle game to do while I zone out and watch things on my other monitor. Because lately I've been busy and I've been a bit sick and stuff, so I've just, games that I can switch off with are good for a lot of the time. Similarly, I've continued playing WRC6, which is the rally game. Really have nothing else to add to that. I've just made my way through a bit further in the final season. I did, though, pick up for future playing WRC7 on PlayStation because they were selling it for like $2.50. And I happened to see it and thought, oh, yep, sounds like a good one. I'll play that one next. And I looked in my library on Steam and I've got WRC8. I already played WRC9. I think I've got WRC10 somewhere. And on Game Pass is the latest EA WRC. It's just called WRC Rally or something, I think. Like they stopped with the numbers and it's just a reboot of sorts or something like that. I don't know. So I've got loads of WRC games to play, which I'll probably be playing long into the months ahead. But yeah, they're good games. If you're like me and you never actually looked at the WRC series, but just because you're sticking to the Dirt series or something, time to branch out because they're good. And I definitely think it's worth looking at the other series that exist because you might be surprised and pleased. And I'm having a great old time working through this one and more fun than I have in Dirt games lately. So, hooray. I also played a bit more Helldivers 2 with my friends, which is interesting because, like anything when you play with your friends or play multiplayer, there's always that balance between what you want to do and what everyone else wants to do. And I'm not a very competitive person. I don't need to be challenged like to the edge of my abilities every single time I play a game. Whereas one of my friends wants to play it as hard as possible all the time, no matter how much we suffer. And so we've been playing a few missions here and there, but I'm still a noob. I'm like level 9 and other people are like level 100 and something in the game if they've been playing for a while. So I'm very much a low level kind of character, but my friend keeps putting us into like these high level missions on the hardest difficulty. And I just die every time I see an enemy, basically. I just look at them and I die because I'm that freaking weak. And to the point we were, because there's always up to 4 people in each mission, and I'm playing with 1 or 2 friends at a time. So we always have at least one extra random. And there was this dude that we were playing with who was like level 60 or something. And after we finished the mission that we were on, and I died like 50 billion times. And he kind of wrote us a message in chat, and most of the community are pretty good for Helldivers that I've encountered so far anyway. That there might be bad guys out there, but most of the people I've met have been cool. And this dude just very nicely said in chat, he's like, oh, maybe you guys should do some lower level stuff because you haven't unlocked the weapons and armor and stuff needed to do these higher missions, and that's why you're dying constantly. And, it's not... It ends up being you've got a guy carrying you for the whole mission rather than you actually working as a team and overcoming, the obstacles and the challenges. And I agree. I'm the kind of guy who I'll put it on easy and I'll do a lower level mission and just slowly build up my power and still have a good time but succeed or whatever. Because I don't need that competitive challenge. Whereas like one of my friends in particular is like, nah, we're doing it on the hardest difficulty and we're doing the highest level thing that we're allowed to access, and who cares if we always lose? And I'm like, but if we always lose we don't progress anyway, so
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But that's where again, I'm not a competitive person. I'm just like, cool, yeah, let's do that, because at the end of the day I'm shooting the shit and hanging out with my friends, so that's the point of playing multiplayer games for me, not to be the best gamer in that sense.
Yeah.
But it's a good game and I really am enjoying it still. And yeah, it gets tough as nails in sections, mostly through amount of enemies and types of enemies and how accurate they are on higher levels. So you can be running through the map and just turn around a corner and be confronted with like 20 dudes just walking around, and they suddenly see you and they're like, oh, I'm going to go after you now. And that can be an issue. But I am kind of getting more used to things. Like I'm getting more used to calling down, I forget what they're called, but they're the special abilities where you have to do like a Konami code kind of combination every time to call down like an airstrike and that sort of thing.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. And again, I said it before, but it's basically the first game, just with a different perspective, and that's cool. I like that. The first game was a great game, and this one continues to be so. And finally, I've been continuing my Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney journey. I've made it through my first trial day, where the object of our interrogation was Angel, who is the...
Oh, yeah. I love her.
She's like the head prosecutor, I think, is the thing. And she's confessed to the crime, but it's obvious that she obviously didn't do it. Or maybe it's a double bluff. I don't know. Like, I haven't finished the case yet. But I've done Angel and Grant's first testimony. or Gant, sorry, not Grant. I'm just looking at my notes to see where I'm up to. And I'm back to like doing the round 2 of investigating, which, anyone who's played a Phoenix Wright game will know that loop where, you do some investigating, you find some clues, you find evidence, you talk to some people, rah, rah, rah. Then you do a day of trials or testimony or whatever where you do objection and you said this and now you're saying that and blah, blah, blah. And then that resolves and you go do some more investigations before the next day of testimonies and all that kind of thing. So you get more evidence and more things come to light and blah, blah, blah. And I'm still really enjoying it. I don't think I'm far enough in to make any great declarations yet, though. However, I do plan to focus on it very much so before we record again. So I'm hoping I'll have it finished by then as well.
Ooh, those are big words because it is a very long case.
Well, this is what I've been told. So, but I'm in the mood. I've been, like I say, I've been busy and stuff. Haven't really been able to focus heaps. So I haven't played heaps of Phoenix Wright as much as I'd like to have because you kind of got to pay attention.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's a longer kind of thing, whereas like playing Case of Golden Idol, I knew that would be finished real quick because it's only, I think it took me, I want to say like 5 hours, 6 hours maybe to finish, something like that. Whereas I know this might take a bit longer. So, and is way more complex and, all that kind of stuff. So, however, despite all that, I'm feeling ready to tackle it probably in the coming days. And I've got some days off as well from work. So,
nice.
I'm in the mood to solve a case. But I have kind of been chipping away a little bit by little bit. But yeah, hold that thought and watch this space and all that good stuff because I'm hoping to finish it soon or at least get a big chunk of the way in. So next time I'll have some more to tell on that one. And that's about it. That's pretty much all I've been playing. It's been a simple week. It's been a lot of Glass Masquerade puzzles, a lot of WRC6, bit of Phoenix Wright. Nothing too incredible and groundbreaking.
Yeah, I'm kind of like itching to go back into like more story-focused games, but I haven't. Mainly because I don't want to fail everything at uni. Because once the rabbit hole is real, when the tinfoil hat is on, there's no stopping. So I want to avoid that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, games like Phoenix Wright, I think the charm of those games is really getting stuck in and really getting immersed in it and, not doing little bits here and there, but doing as much as you can all at once because it's much more satisfying that way because you remember things easier. You pay attention to what's happening a bit easier. You can follow the story a lot more because there's a lot going on usually.
Yeah.
And like lots of evidence and all that kind of stuff to keep track of. So that's where I kind of like, I've been dipping into it because I'm like, oh, I'll play a little bit more. But then I'm thinking, nah, I need to like focus for a good afternoon or something when I get the chance to really get stuck in. So I plan to do that. But yeah, for now, that's all I've been touching. So yeah, let us have a chat. And Paula, I would like you to kick this off to let me know your thoughts on our topic for the week, which is gaming guilty pleasures. And I have things to say about this, but that's why I kind of want to start with your thoughts or your initial kind of impressions. Because we all have guilty pleasures or things that are quote unquote guilty pleasures, and we all have different ideas about what that means. So why don't you start us off with the discussion today and tell us what you think?
I guess gaming guilty pleasures would be like the kind of game you wouldn't want just anyone to catch you playing. Or like games you wouldn't like normally discuss with other people because either the stigma, the content, or whatever. So, in that regard, atomic games kind of have been like a guilty pleasure for me for a while. Some more than others. Like, there are some atomic games that I haven't even touched in this show because they're not for this kind of schedule, I guess. But some regards, like I have the experience of I don't know, just chilling, being like between classes, playing an atomic game, like somewhere in at uni. And suddenly, either like a suggestive or a spider series scene shows up in my screen. And I'm like, holy fuck, I'm so glad I have headphones. My wall is against my back is against the wall because this could be like very badly interpreted. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So normally I do talk about automatic games more freely, especially nowadays. There's still that part in me, especially like in real life, where I have like an image to uphold. Like I teach classes of this kid. Like they cannot like just discover me now. My boyfriend is laughing. Like, which image to uphold you're talking about?
Yeah.
And he's walking away very slowly. So yeah, in that regard, like, stop laughing. So yeah, like the other day, I had to lend my PC to some students because the PC on the classroom, like, just didn't like the Wi-Fi that day, I guess, and they couldn't like download or show the things they're supposed to present. So it was
Hmm.
okay. You can use my computer, just don't go to the desktop. What's the thing they do after they finish presenting? They close everything and leave the desktop wide open. And there's just a bunch of husbandos from Olympia Story. Nothing spicy, just them like in very proper and elegant clothes, but
Hmm.
just looking pretty there or inviting the viewer. And
Hmm.
obviously everyone saw it, and it was a shame, including the other teacher's helper and the teacher himself. That was beautiful. Or the one time that I was talking about, this was years ago before the pandemic, but I was talking with a teacher about applications to learn Japanese. And I just swapped my phone, show him like the applications on the phone. And then when he was away, I realized he saw my screensaver and my wallpaper, which again, it wasn't like anything too spicy, but it was like Roman stuff, and I was like, you. So yeah, like I enjoy what I enjoy, but sometimes people look at you funny when you enjoy those things. So I try not to. Okay, I try
Mm.
not to show like the less friendly stuff, but usually people don't know what they're looking at, so that's okay.
Mm. Well, and I think you pretty much nailed it on the head as to what most people think of when they think of guilty pleasures. It's usually stuff that's a bit taboo or adult or secretive, or like usually games with adult content or sexual content, that sort of thing. And not even games, but it could be into other things. But I think that's somewhere where, like you say, yeah, if you're at uni or something and you're playing a game, it's less about being a guilty pleasure, more just appropriate for the environment. Like if you, it's like
True.
you probably shouldn't sit there watching porn either, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, so it's more just reading the room kind of thing, and it's not appropriate for those sorts of public forums, perhaps. However, I'm always a big believer in the fact that you shouldn't have any guilty pleasures, and I'm not dissing you or anyone else who
Mm.
thinks of it that way. It's more just when people ask me what's your guilty pleasures, I think about it and I'm like, I don't really have any. Like I play games that have adult content in it, and I play games that don't, and I play games that I know other people think are guilty pleasures, but I also play a lot of games that I know people don't, and I don't. I guess for me, I don't really care. In fact, most of the actual guilty pleasures that I am more reluctant to tell people about are the kind of dude bro mainstream games that a lot of really enthusiast nerds kind of have a go at you, going, "Oh, you're playing that bullshit Call of Duty game or whatever,"
Mm.
like, and they'll give you shit for that, and I'm like, dude, I'm just having fun. Like, I don't.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
gaming. Like, leave me alone. But I've caught more flack for, playing the Medal of Honor series or something, which is, universally thought of as a pretty shit first-person shooter series. And it is, to be fair. It's nothing great, but I've had some good times in it, and I'll probably continue to have good times when I play it. But it's interesting to me because that's the kind of game where I've come up against it being like more of a guilty pleasure, even more so than, you know, obligatory sexual content filled whatever kind of games that people then just go, oh, they don't want to talk about it anyway because they're probably just a bit embarrassed and don't want to bring it up. So it's really interesting, I think, because I personally don't think anything should be a guilty pleasure in the world of entertainment. Just like any music you listen to, movies you watch. Music's a good one for me as well, just to let me go on a little bit of a tangent, because I've always really loved music. I've been a huge fan of music my whole life and different kinds of music. And I love listening to so many different types of music, from full-on pop music that's on the top 40 to obscure, weird, heavy metal, jazz fusion combos that no one's ever heard of from Finland and shit, you know. and it's funny because I've got friends who are into all kinds of music, and a good portion of them, I don't necessarily talk about the pop music I'm into because I know they'll give me shit about it, kind of thing.
Yep.
And I genuinely am into it. Like, I'm not trying to be silly or anything. I'm genuinely into a lot of pop music. There's a lot of pop music I don't like, but there's a lot that I do like. And it's that same thing of like the real nerdy gamers who are into the obscure kind of more hardcore shit always give me crap about playing the Call of Duties or the Assassin's Creeds, like, because I love Assassin's Creed, but it's so mainstream that people give me crap. Is the same thing of like my heavy metal friends who are, they only listen to Tool because it's the best music ever. And I like Tool, don't get me wrong. But as soon as I bring up anything else, they're like, you're obviously not into music because you listen to other stuff.
Oh, no.
Actually, I'd argue that I'm more into music because I listen to more things. But anyway, kind of like with gaming, like I've got a very wide palette of things that I like, I think. And I'm not stuck into it having to be this weird niche indie shit all the time. And that's cool. I'm not dissing people who are into that stuff at all. But it's funny how that has become the thing that people pick up on and make me feel like it's a guilty pleasure when I play like mainstream big budget stuff.
Kind of funny because me don't want to show people that I play, I don't know, more automated games or killing games, comes from the fact that a lot of people don't view them as games at all. In some regards, or they see pretty boys on the screen and they immediately think about every sexual thing, fetishes, and all that jazz. When the story
Yeah.
is more like a fairy tale in that regard, and a lot more about the romance and the things more than anything else. So that being kind of like a guilty pleasure sometimes comes from people not knowing what it actually is, so they just make assumptions and judge you accordingly.
Well, and I would honestly say that fear of the unknown is kind of behind everything like that. Like the whole reason anyone would, not in a playful kind of way, but in a serious way, give someone shit about something they're into. The only reason they do that is because they don't really know much about it and they don't feel equipped to, or they don't feel secure enough to basically say, hey, I'm not sure about that. I'm not confident enough to say that I either don't know what you're talking about or I'd like to know more, please.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's very much that fear of the unknown thing. Because otherwise it's like, well, plenty of people I've met are like, oh, cool. Hey, I know you're into lots of different games and everything, but that seems really mainstream. Why are you into that one? Yeah, it's more like, hey, it's interesting that you're into that as opposed to, oh, you mustn't be a real gamer. Because like Atomic games or something, like if someone wasn't really familiar with the genre or didn't really understand romance in games, because a lot of games don't have romance in them or something like that, then their first reaction might be, oh, well, I'm going to poo-poo it because I don't really know much about it. But I would hope that more people would perhaps be like, oh, so I know you, Paula. I've heard you talk about games before. You seem like you're pretty into games regardless. So tell me about it. What's the deal? Like, if you're into it, it might be interesting. Come at it from that angle as opposed to, well, you should feel bad for being into something that I'm not.
Yeah. It's like kind of like an internet thing, like in general, because like it happens like in every kind of media. What I've
Mm,
seen at the very least in the circle of Twitter that I've been. But in any kind of media, whenever something talks about romance or is like more oriented to a female audience rather than a male audience, a very vocal, a very small minority that is very, very vocal starts throwing shit at it because, oh no, it's girly. It takes away fans from whatever we want and stuff like that. So, oh, sorry, this is like turning into a rant about things or like the guilty
no, do it.
pleasures. Yeah. So,
Tell us what you think, how you feel.
so yeah, and that sucks because it's not like you're not getting the your latest shonen or your latest waifu game because we're getting otome games. We're getting both, and
Mm,
that's the beauty of it. Like, if you have more variety of games, you have more people that can enjoy a wider variety of games. So I
mm.
don't understand like all this gatekeeper shit and things like no, you cannot become a gamer with those games. Yeah. So
Well, I always
yeah,
think of that stuff as it's a bunch of kids who don't know what they're talking about.
yeah, it's pretty much that.
Like, you know, teenagers who are still trying to figure out their own shit. And that's cool. I did the same when I was a teenager. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So, you know, but I hope that more people eventually just go, hey, we're all into gaming. You're having fun with it. It's harmless because you're playing a game. Who cares? And yes, I won't say there's not weird shit in gaming. Like there is some kind of disturbing stuff where there's some weird kind of crime related things that happen in certain games, and you're just like, that's a weird thing to be into. Uh, because in any context, I think it's a weird thing to be into, as in whether it's music talking about these sorts of things or books or movies or something, unless there's kind of an artistic reason for it. Some of these more extreme, I guess, topics, which, you know, we're talking about the crime versions of adult material and that sort of stuff
Yeah.
without saying it outright. Yeah, that's kind of like, unless there's a artistic point to be made or something to learn from it or something like that, I'll admit I do think that's kind of a weird thing to be into, and I'd be like, hang on, how you get your entertainment from that? That's kind of weird. But
Mm,
everything else, where it's pretty much just most of the time just trying to have fun and entertain in one way or the other, but is fairly harmless and doesn't, you know, teach you horrible life choices and that sort of stuff. I don't see why there's a problem with it. And
yeah. I have to say, it's kind of funny how in entertainment in general, like I said, like romance gets a lot of shit.
yeah,
But like anything romance, sexuality, or whatever, it gets a lot of shit, and it's like, well, who will think of the children and stuff like that, or somebody please think of the children. Well, in reality, like kids are exposed to violence like 24/7 in all kinds of media, so
yep,
it's kind of weird where the more I'm gonna say human thing or like more natural thing in a way gets shit, while the violence
mm.
that we also despise, it's everywhere.
Well, I'm also a firm believer in the concept of the thing that we fear and dislike the most in other people is the
Hmm.
thing that we fear and dislike about ourselves.
True.
As in, the things that I don't like seeing in other people are usually the reflections of things I don't like about myself.
Hmm.
And that's where I feel like most people are pretty peaceful and, you know, gentle kind of people in the grand scheme of things. They're not looking for violence. They're not hurting others, that sort of thing. So when you see violence happening around the world, you kind of go, yeah, I know that's apart from me. So
Yeah.
it's easier to kind of dissociate and not get as
Oh.
caught up in it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas because we live, well, in Western society, at least I should say, because I'm not too familiar with other cultures, but in the society I live in, sexuality and sexual content and all that kind of stuff isn't really talked about very much and is treated as kind of this taboo topic that you should never kind of bring up and never really talk about. So there's a lot of uneducated or misinformed or what's the word, like fake newsy basically stuff around where people have to kind of just figure out for yourself without ever discussing it with anyone. So when you see it being reflected very overtly or, being used as a story device and you're still not sure about yourself or whatever or anything like that, I feel that's when you start getting a bit, oh, this is making me feel uncomfortable and I don't know what's going on. And, because I think about this stuff all the time, but I don't actually know what I'm talking about. So,
True.
and we're always told not to talk about it and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it's just that weird thing about human society where, we're also scared of sexuality, but we're also comfortable with violence that I think is weird as fuck. And I don't think anyone disagrees really.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, of course, if you had to choose violence or sex, what would you be choosing? I don't think it's even needs an answer. But but yeah, interestingly, just to kind of take it away and a funny story, for anyone who doesn't know, these days I work in a library and there's a lot of romance in libraries, like a lot of romance sections and books and stuff. And It's a very popular genre. It's probably one of the most popular genres from everything that I see come and go in the library. But it's hilarious because, the libraries I work in, we stock all the, really out there kind of erotic fiction, kind of Mills and Boon, stupid, almost porn, basically, actual porn stories. But we also do a service which is called an outreach service where we deliver books to people who can't make it into the library, who are often elderly customers and that kind of thing. And this story is going somewhere, trust me. But there's this one customer at one of the libraries I work at who she's elderly. She's about 98 if she's a day. She can't make it into the library, so she gets the home library service. But she's requested, all she wants is the steamiest, sexiest Western cowboy hot porn books that you've got. She wants all them. That's all she wants to read.
Wait, she requested it like that? Like
she didn't say it like that exactly, but she basically did. She said, "Don't send me any other shit. I just want that hardcore cowboy sex books, basically."
I'm not even mad. That's amazing. Someone gave her a medal.
She's a fucking legend in my view. I'm like, good on you. Like, she knows what she likes, and that's what she likes. God damn it.
Yeah, and she ain't taking shit from anyone. Like, holy crap.
Well, and the reason I kind of think about it as well is because to me, that's kind of the joy of getting older, is caring less and less what anyone else thinks.
Oh yeah, compared to what I was in high school, I don't give a shit about people anymore. Like,
Absolutely. And I'm the same, and I hope everyone kind of, as you get older, one of the joys I think of getting older is realizing and having it proven again and again and again, nobody gives a shit about what you do or what you're into. Unless you're doing something that harms other people, no one gives a fuck.
and the ones they do have too many times on their hands.
Well, that's it. Anyone who actually does, you're like, well, you're a dickhead anyway, so I don't care about you. And why am I wasting my energy? And it's the same with games. And that's why I kind of have, at this point in my life, think, well, guilty pleasures be damned. Play what you want to play, enjoy what you want to enjoy, because who gives a shit? Like, this is meant to be entertainment. This is a hobby to, help you wind down at the end of the day, or just put a smile on your face, or give you a challenge to overcome, or whatever. Just to be able to entertain yourself in between all the things that we have to do every day, whatever form that entertainment takes. Again, I don't really back the full-on criminal things that are glorifying horrible aspects of humanity. But most of the other stuff, I'm just like, yeah, who cares? Enjoy yourself,
Yeah, and definitely surround yourself with friends that either don't judge you or they enjoy the things together. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
like in my
Well, it's
uni,
like I mentioned, sorry, it's like I mentioned all people I knew who were like really into heavy metal and stuff and like would give me shit about pop music. I don't see them very much anymore.
yeah,
because
definitely.
not just because of that, but that's an element of their personality that drags through to a whole lot else in their personality. So
Beautiful. So we have actually like this friend group that we made up like in one semester with one of the freshmen that is not quite a freshman in my uni. Like she was in another university and she changed careers and now she's here. So she's like older than the other freshies. But we also have like a friend that I met again that it was from like one of my previous classes, and now I found her again, and it was like, hey, let's talk. And suddenly the three of us are together. We also like if I have to like translate or localize the name, it would either like be like the gossipers, or like the tea sippers or something like that.
Right.
And we like still to talk about like uh, overall media, romance, and stuff like that because we really enjoy shoujo anime. We really enjoy reading like that of my friends more than I, but they do enjoy reading like that obscure web novel that they find something and now they have to look for the translation group because no one brings that shit here. And at one point, and you can cut this out from the recording if you want. They were interrogating me about like the weirdest or like the most out there otome games that I played, and I was
Excellent.
like, you know what? There's like this game from that actually like the artist from Cafe Enchanté did like the character designs and portraits for this game. And like there's two things that she really does really well. One being hands, like holy fuck, like there's some artwork where she's like just bragging about how good she draws hands. But also there's she really likes like I'm gonna say older gentlemen really well. And there's
Right.
a genre game called Puff Encounter where there's just self in that game, like, and some very old, and I'm like, and I was like talking about that, and they were laughing, and one of them was like full unhinged and said something about like, well, most what- what's the word for this? Let me actually look for the word because I don't think I ever said it. Oh yeah, no, I actually want it. But she says something about like the more wrinkle the racing, the sweeter the fruit. And I laughed my ass off that day, and it was beautiful. So yeah, if you manage to get a group of friends who enjoy the same things you do and joke about it, like we did and she did, like go ahead. It is the most beautiful experience either. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, Let those guilty pleasures not be guilty pleasures.
And allow yourself to have fun with it as well. Like, I like a series of games which people have probably heard of before, which are the Senran Kagura games.
Yeah.
And they have a bunch of different games over different genres, but it basically stars the same lineup of, let's say, voluptuous anime women. Uh,
Yep.
and very over the top, in my view, like ridiculously unrealistic. But they're games where the mechanics are usually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have some fighting games, they have a rhythm game.
The
They
volleyball
have
game.
that's the is there a Senran Kagura one? I know they've got like a
Actually, yeah.
water pistol third person shooter game,
Oh,
which
it's
everyone's in swimsuits and shooting water pistols at each other.
let me
But I
actually.
think there's a Dead or Alive volleyball game, which is famous for being like, you know, look at the girls play volleyball.
Oh, it's
Um,
probably that one.
the point of the Senran Kagura ones, and the reason I like that series is because there's also a lot of humor involved. And sure, humor isn't to everyone's taste, and it'll either land or it won't in certain ways. And there are parts of their humor which doesn't land for me, but most of the time it does. So, I enjoy the games, and the mechanics of the games that they have are actually pretty tight as well. Like I mentioned, I had my PlayStation Vita, which I haven't picked up in a while last week. But one thing that I used my Vita for a lot before I did kind of drop it, and I have actually want to go back and finish this game, is a game called Senran Kagura Bon Appetit, which is a rhythm game, which is like an Iron Chef type cooking competition, but you play a rhythm game to see how well you do in each round of the cooking competition.
Beautiful.
And it's a bit guilty pleasure because as you play, the better you do, the more items of clothing you knock off your opponent.
Oh, I see. So it's kind
So
of
by the
like
time
street
you
poker, but rhythm game.
kind of, but so by the time you get to the end, if you've done really well, you've won, but your opponent is also all but naked because they cover up the essential bits. But yeah, that's just part of the game and part of the humor of it, and they kind of have a lot of fun with it in a way. Like they make jokes about it and all that kind of stuff. They don't take it too seriously, and it doesn't feel as maybe like lecherous or, you know, voyeuristic as some other games might, because it's just part of their funny shtick that are in those games. There's always something along those lines which they, you know, it's just funny. And it's very lighthearted, I suppose, and it's not taken too seriously. And it's just like, yeah, this might not be funny for everyone, but it's very lighthearted and entertaining either way. And it doesn't get too stuck up its own ass in that sense. Like, and it's a fun game. It's a fun rhythm game. It's actually kind of challenging. There's cool music and there's a lot of good visual feedback on everything. Like a lot of animes and stuff, the food looks amazing. Like it's hand drawn and everything, but my God, it looks so tasty.
It's kind of funny, like the story of why anime food has to look good.
There's a reason?
There's a reason. I don't remember the anime, but the cabbage was literally a green ball. And it was a disgrace to the point that food in anime cannot look bad anymore. Or that's like the too long didn't read. Like, I think Last Reflection has a video on his channel explaining that, and it is hilarious. Like, because this one dude was lazy animating cabbage, now everyone suffers, and especially cabbage has to
Yeah.
look as actual fucking cabbage.
Well, I don't know if you've ever watched Food Wars.
I haven't, but I want to watch it so badly. Like, I've seen the food; it is gorgeous.
Yeah, I
But
watched
I
like the
would get
first
hungry.
season a long time ago, and it is like food porn to the max. Like
Yeah, no
everything that they cook in
joke.
that is just makes your mouth drool, and you're just like, oh, that looks so good. The funny thing about that anime is like his food that he cooks is so good that anyone who tastes it basically has an orgasm.
Oh,
Is
I see.
the thing. So, and that's kind of like a through thing on every single episode. Like he's always trying to prove himself as a chef because he's a poor guy who's in this elite cooking school. And that's why it's called Food Wars, because he's always competing against people to cook the better food. But whenever the judges have like one bite of his food, they do this abstract kind of orgasm thing. And it's kind of funny. But again, it's kind of like, to some people that might seem a bit off or weird, but they treat it in such a lighthearted kind of not caring way that it's
It,
just funny.
yeah. On the other side of the coin, we have a more wholesome show, I guess, called Sweetness and Lightning,
Right.
and it's very much about a father that, well, that lost like his wife, and he's in charge
Mm-hmm.
of feeding his daughter, but he doesn't know how to cook. So things happen, and he manages to uh, very much like uh, talk with one of the students, like mother, who is like a very famous chef. And since she wants to know, like the daughter of that chef wants to know how to cook and wants to share a meal because she spends a lot of time alone in her home, and the others like want yummy food, like the mother like leaves them like recipes to follow, and you can pretty much like follow along.
That's
Like,
cool.
they don't say like the quantities, but you can pretty much follow along if you have like the proper recipe.
Yeah, awesome.
And it looks so good too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that stuff's really cool. Yeah, to bring it back to a topic, I guess.
Oops.
If I could, impart anything onto anyone, and not to sound like too much of an old man, but it is kind of like, if you're enjoying yourself, if you're having fun, if something's entertaining you, don't let people give you shit about it. Seriously, like if people give you shit about it, it just shows more about them than it does about you,
Yeah,
and they're probably
definitely.
dicks.
Yeah. Maybe they're unhappy and want to make you feel unhappy too. So don't give a crap. Enjoy
Yeah,
what you enjoy. At the very least, you enjoy life better.
there's an odd number of people who are miserable and want to make other people miserable. So never let that get you down.
Yeah, you don't need
Mm,
those in your life.
hell no. But also, don't get too freaky.
Yeah,
No,
there's a
I'm
moment
joking. I'm
and a
joking.
place. Please do not play porn games, or like not even porn games, like spicier stuff at uni.
Well, I think that's a good thing as well. Like you've got to. I don't believe in censoring anything or anything like that, but I do believe in. It's kind of like there are certain types of people who are really obnoxious because they're like, well, I'm just being honest. I'm just saying what I'm thinking and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's cool. I believe I'm a very honest person, as in I don't lie about things. I don't mislead people about things, but I don't consider myself obnoxious because I think I have a bit of tact and I can keep my mouth shut as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be rude to people and I don't want people to feel bad because of something I've said or that, no matter how truthful I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes for, guilty pleasure type stuff as well. Like, why make someone feel guilty about something? But also on the other side, like, yeah, okay, I like Sinner and Kaguru games, but I probably wouldn't whip out my Vita and play it in a public place. Not just because I don't want people thinking badly of me, but more because I don't want to, make other people feel uncomfortable around me. And things which are very adult in nature, just like I wouldn't play the most violent thing ever either, because I think that's probably quite confronting. I wouldn't play like this something super, super gory and, with violent noises and people getting shot in the head and all this kind of stuff and people dying all the time and, rah, rah, rah. Because I think that could be quite confronting for people as well and
That is
make other
that you
people
could
feel
learn,
uncomfortable.
especially if you play without headphones or earbuds. Anything
Yeah,
that has like clear noises, like either like noises, can put people on edge, even if they know
exactly.
it's not real.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's just part of being considerate about other people around you, like just being a decent person. And I don't think that's really a revelation to a lot of people, but maybe some people need to hear it because yeah, it's like, well, again, working in libraries, there's a lot of children who come into the libraries and there's children's areas and all that kind of thing. So there are certain things that we don't accept or that are not appropriate in the library or especially in the children's areas of the libraries. Not because we're super conservative and precious or anything, but it's more, no, that's not appropriate to do around children, or that's not appropriate to talk about around children because you don't know how they're going to interpret things or misinterpret things or,
Yeah, and even if it's
anything like
like
that.
a more vanilla topic, you don't know if their parents have talked about that, so you don't want to.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm gonna tell you. You don't want to have trouble with anyone's parents. That's like the worst thing that could happen. Holy crap!
But yeah, I think it's, there's definitely value in being true to yourself and, letting your freak flag fly. And I'm all for that and, you know, that kind of thing. But I think everyone can do that while also being considerate of others and not, you know, being obnoxious about it, essentially.
True.
It's like, yeah, if I wear clothing that other people think is shit, who cares? If I walk around with a big sign saying obscene things about you, then someone might care.
Yeah,
no matter
definitely.
how no matter how much it's telling me it's part of my truth. And it's the same with gaming and stuff. Like, yeah, if someone really enjoys that shit thing that you think is ridiculous and they should be guilty about, who cares? If they're enjoying themselves, who gives a shit? And same with you. Don't feel guilty about stuff.
I think we pretty much grind this topic to dust.
Yes, thank you for coming to our TED Talk and our rants and tangents.
This is the usual over here. But well, what can you do? This is just us.
I mean, yeah, this sort of stuff gets me fired up anyway because I think it's just such it's basic fundamentals about being a good human being, really. So
Definitely, but people don't know how to be a perfect human being. Like most of the time, I didn't know when I was in high school. So yeah,
and we're all still learning as we go. So yeah, it's worth
true,
talking about
true.
is more the thing than having any kind of firm answers or whatever. But anyway, as you say, that'll probably do us. Any final thoughts on that, Paula, from you?
No, just go play some video games. Enjoy. I think it's close to be like summer vacation on the North Hemisphere. For a lot of people here in the South Hemisphere, it's kind of like winter break or something. So yeah, I think.
Yeah. I think right now our mid-year break for students and things is finishing right now. So.
Oh, that's fine. I'm
That's okay.
awake.
But it's nice and it's fucking freezing here at the moment, so it's a good time to stay inside and play some games. That's why I plan to do more over the
Yeah,
next few days.
definitely. Yeah.
I kept getting extreme weather report warnings on my phone today, so I think I'll be indoors for the next few days.
Yeah, I'm pretty much like gonna like just turn in this piece of homework, do a thing tomorrow, and just hibernate for a couple of weeks. That's the plan.
Nice. Awesome. And with that, dear listener, we will leave you and say thank you very much for coming along the journey and listening again. Let us know your thoughts on our discussion topic on guilty pleasures and that sort of thing, and especially if you disagree, because it can be quite a spicy topic to think about. And if you have some other opinions and everything, always feel free to hit us up. We love to have a bit of a discussion. But if not, I think we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Well, especially like in summer, like kids get very thirsty, so I have to like put like all the vending machines in all the corners. So it's good. It wasn't in that in that way. No.